BMGT 1309 Study Guide Final Exam. Resource-limited scheduling. Resource-limited scheduling will extend the project completion time if necessary in order to keep within the resource limits. Next, network diagrams. Network diagrams illustrate the technical constraints among activities because one activity cannot be started until the predecessors are finished. Next, serial relationship. Activities are drawn in a serial relationship because, from a technical standpoint, they must be performed in that sequence. Next, network logic. In addition to showing the technical constraints among activities, the network logic can also take into account resource constraints. Activities that use the same resource may not be able to occur in parallel to each other. Next,
Paralleltasks.
this means that all the tasks are assigned at the same time. The total resources would be the total of all those assigned to the tasks. If you see a question like this, sum the number of workers in parallel. Next, resource leveling or smoothing. This is a method for developing a schedule that attempts to minimize the fluctuations in requirements for resources. Next, resource-limited scheduling. This is a method for developing the shortest schedule when the number or amount of available resources is fixed and cannot be exceeded. Next, limited resources. When several activities need the same limited resource at the same time, the activities with the least slack have first priority. Next, resource constraints, referring specific to network diagrams and availability of a limited quantity of resources. Next, what is risk? A risk is an uncertain event that, if it occurs, can jeopardize accomplishing the project objective. Next, risk identification. Risk identification includes determining which risks may adversely affect the project objective and what the impact of each risk might be if it occurs. Next, risk management. Risk management involves identifying, assessing, and responding to project risks in order to minimize the likelihood of occurrence and/or potential impact of adverse events on the accomplishment of the project objective. Risk priorities. Chapter 8. Next, risk ratings. The degree of impact is a rating of low, medium, or high based on the expected level of change in completing the project's objective if the risk were to occur during the project. Next, post-project meetings. Just as important as having the internal post-project meetings within the project organization is having a post-project evaluation meeting with the customer or sponsor. Next, open-ended question meeting should contain an opportunity to talk about possible additional projects and obtain permission to use the customer as a reference with potential customers. Next, lessons learned could be helpful in bidding, planning, and/or performing future projects. Next, closing a project, getting paid, documentations from lessons learned, also involves various actions, including recognizing and evaluating staff. Next, communication *, Chapter 12. Personal verbal communication can take place face-to-face, via telephone, voicemail, or video conferencing. Body language and tone, inflection, and emotion of the voice are important elements that enrich verbal communication. Next, international/cultural communication. When communicating with individuals from other cultures or countries, you need to be aware of their customs regarding greetings, gestures, eye contact, and protocol. Next, project status meetings. Project status meetings should be held on a regularly scheduled basis. The primary purposes of such a meeting are to inform, to identify problems, and to identify action items. Next, project team meetings. Before a project team meeting, the project manager should bullet operator determine whether a meeting is really necessary. Bullet operator determine the purpose of the meeting. Bullet operator determine who needs to participate in the meeting. Bullet operator distribute an agenda well in advance of the meeting. Bullet operator prepare visual aids or handouts. Bullet operator make meeting room and visual aid arrangements. Next, meeting notes. After the meeting, the project manager should publish the meeting results within 24 hours after the meeting. BMGT 1309 Final Exam Study Guide. Next, final report. the final report might include the following. Bullet operator customer's original need. Bullet operator original project objective. Bullet operator customer's original requirements. Bullet operator description of the project. Bullet operator degree to which the original project objective was met. Bullet operator actual versus anticipated benefits to the customer as a result of the project. Bullet operator future considerations. Bullet operator a list of all deliverables provided to the customer. Bullet operator test data from the final acceptance testing. Next, functional organization. A disadvantage of a functional organizational structure is that functional type organizations can be insular with each component concerned about only its own performance. A disadvantage of a functional organizational structure is that there is a stronger allegiance to the function than to the project or the customer. Next, functional organizational structure is typically used in businesses that primarily sell and produce standard products. For example, a company that manufactures and sells video recorders. An autonomous project organizational structure is also known as a projectized organizational structure. Next, the matrix organization is kind of a hybrid, a mix of both the functional and autonomous project organizational structures. Next, the focus of the functional organizational structure is on the technical excellence and cost competitiveness of the company's products, as well as the importance of each functional component's contribution of expertise to the company's products.